I'd like to now call the panelists up to the stage. Our panelists, can you make your way up? And as they make their way up, I want to introduce our moderator for tonight, Eulalia Woodside Lee. Eulalia is the Executive Director of the Nature Conservancy in Hawaii and Palmyra and a respected leader in conservation across the islands. She's dedicated her career to protecting Hawaii's natural resources with deep experience in land management, community engagement, and biosecurity. Her work with government, private landowners, and local communities has helped shape sustainable land use strategies and policies to combat invasive species, making her the perfect person to guide tonight's conversation. We're honored to have her with us. And before introducing our panel, I'd like her to share some thoughts on why this topic is so important to Hawaii's future.
Mahalo nui, Denise, and this is an incredibly important conversation for us to have tonight. Both myself and at the Nature Conservancy, we've seen firsthand the devastating impacts that invasive species can have on our environment, impacting our economy as well as our community. You know, our Hawaiian Islands are home to some of the most remarkable ecological systems on Earth, really made up of a suite of plants and animals that are endemic or for the majority of them found nowhere else in the world. And, you know, from ridge to reef, we have ecosystems that are not only awe-inspiring, but they're also fragile. We have native forests that can pull millions of gallons of water out of the air and bring them down in order to replenish our water supply. We also have, you know, colorful birds with soft song that's found nowhere else in the world. We have a happy-faced spider that has unique patterns on their body. We have reefs that are teeming with life. And these natural systems provide for us ecological services, provisioning services like food, water, and shelter, regulating services that help us against fire, flood, drought, but also healthy soils and pollination. These lands and these species also create a beautiful place for us as residents as well as visitors to live and experience. You know, the Bishop Museum has, I was going to talk to Denise, the Bishop Museum, you know, for over 30 years has kept a list of native and introduced species that have become established in Hawaii. And what we have is, you know, about 15,000 species, plants and animals that are native to Hawaii. And we have about 6,000 species that are not from Hawaii, but have become established in the wild. And over the past 200 years, we have about 300 native species that have gone extinct. And we have about 500 species that are on, you know, lists of threatened and endangered species. But perhaps what's most concerning is there's about 10,000 species that have been introduced to Hawaii that have the potential to become established in the wild, and that number is growing every single year. So this conversation that we're going to have today is really important because as that extinction capital of the world, as that place where we have these native species which are threatened and endangered that help provide for us, ensure that we have water, ensure that we have healthy soils, and take care of our community. It's very important for us to have this conversation, and we've got the right group of people to have that conversation with us. So with that, I'm going to turn to our esteemed panel, and let's get started. And I'm going to have our panelists introduce themselves. So panelists, welcome. Please take about 30 seconds to introduce yourself and give a brief overview of what you do. And let's start with Sharon Hurd.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you. I'm really honored to be here talking about such a relevant, timely subject to the department and everyone in the room. My name is Sharon Hurd. I am the chairperson of the Department of Agriculture. I've been with the department for about almost 20 years. Started off in the marketing department, been chair for about 2 years. I have 2 years left in my term. And we recently changed, there's a bill going through right now for the name change to be the Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity. So you can see how important this topic is to us. Happy to be here.
Mahalo, Sharon. With that, let's have Chelsea Arnott introduce yourself.
Yeah, aloha everyone. My name is Chelsea Arnott. I'm the program manager with the Hawaii Invasive Species Council. I've been working in invasive species management, protecting Oahu's native ecosystems from invasive plants, animals, and diseases for almost 2 decades now. I received my undergrad and graduate degree from the University of Hawaii and very excited to be here as part of this panel and talking about biosecurity, which is a hot topic. And just like Mike, I am very passionate about this topic and I'm really looking forward to this discussion.
Mahalo, Chelsea. Next, I want to welcome Mark Paikuli Stride, a taro farmer from Luluku. You introduce yourself.
Aloha, my name is Mark Paikuli Stride. I'm a taro farmer from Kaneohe on the windward side of the island, and we also farm taro in Maunawili Valley. I'm part of it's called the Luluku Banana Growers Co-op that was around since the 50s and 60s when bananas was dominant within the Kaneohe area along the mountains. Excuse me. We have a nonprofit named Aina Mamona that we also work with that creates educational and community opportunities around the farming that we do and the restoration projects that we do. I am very honored and humbled to be here. I'm looking forward to learning. I've already learned so much from just hearing Mike speak, and very inspiring and very hopeful for our future. And I'm grateful to be here. Thank you.
Mahalo nui, Mark. And wrapping up our panelists this evening is Senior Vice President of Government and Community Relations, Ku'uhaku Park from Matson Navigation.
Hi, aloha everybody. Ku'uhaku Park with Matson. I handle the government community relations, including working with the various agencies, including Department of Agriculture. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Mahalo nui, Ku'u. Our first question is for you, Sharon. Act 231 designates the Hawaii Department of Agriculture as the lead agency for statewide invasive species control and includes significant funding allocation for specific pests. What systems or responsibilities are in place within the department to ensure these funds are being used effectively? And what outcomes are being tracked for long-term impact?
Okay, thank you for the question. Significant funding indeed. Thank you to the legislators that might be in the crowd. I shout out to Senator Richards in particular. I saw him earlier, for trusting us with more funding than we've ever received as a department to fight for the efforts for biosecurity. We got $10 million. It's a lot of money. The way they ensured that we spent the money effectively was they line itemed the 10 million. They said you got 1.5 for this and 2 million for that. And they really lined it out. So we didn't just say, what are we going to spend this money on? We were given the direction to do so. And what was the responsibility is to effectively follow the laws that were given to us through procurement and disperse the money fairly, competitively to the people that really care. You know, the experts, the professionals, the licensed people. Long-term, the long-term result is that these are the invasives that we can deal with. You know, we are charged to prevent, control, and mitigate, hopefully eradicate, right? The long-term proof that we're doing a good job is going to be that you don't see brown tree snake, knock on wood. You don't see the red imported little fire ant because the funding that was given to us, we work with the Invasive Species Council, we work with the partners that we have, and we get a lot of training. The funding that was given to us includes a lot of training, and that's the long-term effect. But one thing we are doing with the money, we have a line item for, it's $800,000 for tech upgrades. We're using it to create a website so you can log on and you can see what we've done with the funding. We're going to reveal the website, soon by the end of the month, where you can see where we've done the surveys. How many sticks did we put? How many LFA did we find? Where the CRB? We have a $1.1 million contract for removal of coconut trees. And the coconut trees that are being removed, you will get you'll see on the map where we're removing them. So we're trying to be as responsible, but the the benefit of the 10 million is that it was earmarked. The line items, so you know what we're doing. Rose-ring parakeet, two-line spittlebug, coqui frog, they're all going to be part of our efforts.
Mahalo, Sharon. Our next question is for Chelsea. What are the most urgent invasive species threats currently affecting Hawaii's agriculture sector, and what measures are being taken to control them?
Wow. That's a really good question. And ultimately, it depends on who you ask. If you're asking a coffee farmer, they're going to say coffee leaf rust. They're going to say coffee berry borer. If you're asking a rancher, they're going to say two-line spittlebug. So there are pests that are specific, and even Mark probably has his own opinion on this. And what I do is support our Hawaii Invasive Species Council, which is ultimately created for statewide coordination, policy direction on the prevention and management of invasive species that not only impact agriculture, but the environment, our cultural resources, human health, the economy, and just our general way of life. So when I answer this question, I think about what are those cross-sectoral pests that are impacting and threatening all those areas and across our landscapes. And for me, that would be little fire ants, coconut rhinoceros beetle, and rapidohea death. Little fire ant, very cryptic. This is spreading across our islands and our state, especially here on Oahu and on Kauai. Tiny little pet ants that leave a really painful sting. In the Galapagos, where these ants have become widespread, farms have been completely abandoned because people cannot work on them. And I know on Hawaii Island, we probably have folks in the audience that can talk about their experiences with these ants. Luckily, we have the establishment and research by the Hawaii Ant Lab that has been able to develop effective survey and treatment protocols that do work when we are able to find infestations. But again, they're really challenging. They're tiny, they move around really easily, not just on live plants, but on other commodities. Coconut rhinoceros beetle, we are seeing the damage of that firsthand to our natural resources and our cultural resources. And coconut rhinoceros beetle has a huge host range. It's not only damaging coconut palms, but also bananas, kalo. So a huge threat to just our way of life here in Hawaii. But unlike little fire ant, we don't have a one-stop shop of tool. We have a lot of tools in the toolbox, but they're mostly for individual palm treatments. And so this is where we need something like a natural enemy, a biological control, to come into play to really manage those widespread populations of coconut rhinoceros beetle. And just real quick, rapidohea death, we think of that as something that impacts our native ecosystems, but this is the fungal pathogens that are killing over 1 million ohia trees. This is a backbone of our native forest here in Hawaii. And if we don't have our native forest, we don't have our watersheds, we don't have our water supply, and we definitely don't have agriculture.
Mahalo, Chelsea. Let's get into some of what you've talked about there and invite Mark with our next question. As president of the Luluku Farmers Association, you've supported local farmers through various environmental and land use challenges. Invasive species continue to threaten Hawaii's agriculture, especially traditional crops like kalo. How is your organization addressing the issue, and what strategies have proven most effective?
I think just following up on what Chelsea was saying, it's very place-based on what problems we're facing in each of our areas and the pests that are coming into these areas. So to give you a background where we are right below the like, between the H3 and the like. If you're familiar with the H3 and where it loops down around into Kaneohe, within that looped area is around 50 to 60 stone wall terraces that date back over 1,000 years. So we're dealing with a complex area of traditional farming. When they built the H3, they relocated us into Maunawili Valley. And so we're above Maunawili Falls, very deep into the forest. So we're farming kalo in areas that are not necessarily commercial farming areas, although they could be used for commercial farming. These are ancient traditional farming complexes. And when we're talking about kalo and growing kalo in these areas, most of the time we'll have coconut, we'll have banana, we'll have sugarcane, all of these things relate to us growing kalo and taking care of the specific areas that we're caring for. So just to give you an idea of what we're dealing with in the areas, we're dealing with imbalances in the microbes in the soil, to insects, damaging our plants. Our main our guy right now is the rhino beetle. Yeah, and that is hitting us way up in the mountains, which we were hoping it wouldn't do, but it has now come into the Mauka region of our Aupua. We're dealing with pigs. As a taro farmer, that's one of the most invasive threats that we face is the feral pig. And then on the plant level, albesia, that's one of our main concerns in the areas that we're farming. It seems to be taking off like a disease. And also there's several other trees that are becoming invasive in our areas, but mainly the albesia. And then in some ways, I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but even us as humans, we become invasive into certain spaces. And just figuring out how we can be a part of the forest and enhance and enrich and revitalize the forest for the future. So listening to Mike talk and all the steps that they've taken in New Zealand to address these issues, as a farmer, I kind of feel like we're at the beginning stages of that conversation. And what is critical is the collaboration that needs to be made for us to be able to address this. As a small farmer, I'm a family farmer, got into farming to grow food for my family. Later on, I was asked to take over the presidency for the Luluku Farmers Association, which all of the farmers were in their 70s and 80s already. And, they learned different times of different styles of farming and dealing with pests and dealing with invasive species. So we're in a new time now that hopefully the partnership with agencies that we're working with, DOFA, DLNR, invasive species, we can gain knowledge from them that we can apply to the areas that we're farming and educating the farmers that we, as a hui, I think that's part of our big goal too.
Mahalo nui, Mark. Our next question is for Ku'u. As a major shipping and logistics company, what role does Matson play in preventing the introduction and spread of invasive species through cargo transport?
So first of all, I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage than the other panelists because we're a transportation company. I mean, first primarily, and then the agricultural part and the invasive species are a part of that, but that's not our primary thing. So, but we do take it seriously. I mean, we live here also, so we do things like on the invasive species side, our vessels, we have a coating to prevent hull fouling. Mike talked about that invasive seaweed that they're having a problem with, so we don't get growths on the hulls of our vessels. We have treated fresh water for our ballast, and we do internal water transfers, so we're not pulling and discharging waters in different ports. So we just keep that all internal to the ship. And then we just again, we're a shipping company. We're not a law enforcement agency, so we have to coordinate a lot with Department of Ag, Federal Ag, Customs, and things like that. So we'll coordinate with them. We supply labor if they need to inspect containers and things like that. We have been pushing with the legislature when inspection bills come up, because the maritime industry, the maritime terminals in Honolulu Harbor have been over capacity for over 20 years now. So there's not room to do intensive inspections, and the state doesn't have the budget to do intensive inspections. So what we've been saying is assign the inspectors to the ultimate destinations, whether they're grocery stores or wherever they're going to go, and have them meet the container there, and then they can observe and inspect as the containers are being unloaded. It doesn't slow down commerce, and you don't need a secondary facility to load and unload, and you don't need to hire labor. So that,
Mahalo, ku'u. We'll come back to you, Sharon, for our next question. In addition to the department's internal responsibilities, how is Hawaii Department of Ag working with community organizations, researchers, and local farmers to ensure these invasive species control efforts are grounded in on-the-ground realities? Are there specific partnerships tied to the Act's implementation?
Definitely. I'm looking at Representative Martin here. She's familiar with some of the ways we have been using the funding to RFP, request for a proposal, out to the communities. Because talk about silent invasion. You know who's not silent? It's the communities. They are screaming. They say, involve us. We know what to do. We can help our communities. And so we've responded, used the funding to do RFPs for individual projects within the communities. Very active in the Waimanalo community and the Kailua community, but also on the North Shore and the West Side. The amount of effort within the communities is heartwarming. They know what to do. They're taking the money and they're having demonstrations on the street. I think in the North Shore they had a food for tree demonstration where you could stop by and eat coconuts and pick up a coconut tree and get some guidance from the coconut response team. And the community effort is amazing. That's where it's going to happen. It's got to happen at the community level. We're engaging them. It's definitely interagency. I'm going to use as an example axis deer, or let's use H5N1. H5N1 is the avian flu. If we said H5N1, hey, that's brought in by the migratory birds, that's DLNR. Department of Ag, we can step away. We can do that, but it's not. It's the migratory bird, that's the DLNR function, was found in the wastewater, which is Department of Health, and then it was found in a backyard flock in your area, which is us. So if we took the position that, hey, this is your deal, we would all fail. So the interagency, the community effort, it's going to take all of us to work together. Particularly, we rely on the communities. We rely on the private sector to help us with detections. CTAR is a great partner. It's the farmers and the ranchers. It's going to take all of us. We work together. I'm looking at Ron. He and his group have a lot of diseases. It's not just invasive species that have, the insects. You got pathogens like H5N1, you got bovine TB, you got waterborne. It's everything. And so we all need to work together to fix it.
Thank you, Sharon. Chelsea, with our next question, given the current structure of the Invasive Species Council, what aspects are working well? And where is there room for improvement in the structure and operation, or structure and approach for the council? And what developments give you hope or make you feel optimistic about the future of invasive species management in Hawaii?
3 questions. 3 questions in one.
Two and a half.
Okay. Being here today, maybe I'll start with the last part. That we're having a discussion on biosecurity, that this is becoming a more common term to use here in Hawaii to talk about prevention and management of invasive species. And like Mike mentioned, when we talk about biosecurity, we're not just talking about airports and harbors, like the ports of entry. We're talking about the pre-border and the post-border, like what happens after a pest comes in. So I think just having this discussion, and a lot of this is being led by our leadership, our legislators, some of who are in the back here, that are really putting this as a priority at the forefront of what we need to do to support local agriculture and all the other aspects that make Hawaii, Hawaii. I think just going back, I also, with Mike and his presentation, very inspired in the people aspect. There's a lot of community response efforts that are happening right now. And the young people that are coming out to hand capture coqui frogs in Waimanalo, or participating in little fire ant surveys and treatments over in some of these communities, is really exciting to me. And that they're taking action in their community and they want to see results, and they're not just standing by and waiting for these things to come in. So that's really exciting to me to see. When it comes to the Invasive Species Council, well, we're perfect. Everything's going great. I do the interagency. It is an interagency effort to take on the when something comes into Hawaii and we have these pests that are across the landscapes. It really is an interagency effort because not everybody has all the resources we need to address the pests that we have here, and especially the new pests that are coming in or on the horizon. So we are really great through the council at leveraging existing capacity and resources, so we aren't leaving gaps, and we're making sure we're putting our best foot forward with having rapid response and existing responses to those infestations that we know about. I am really excited to see we have Department of Transportation folks here from airports and harbors. So I think an area in that the council, in my opinion, we can continue to grow is we've been really focused on Department of Land and Natural Resources and Department of Agriculture in biosecurity and invasive species because they have the authorities and the jurisdictions, but really getting our other agencies, state departments more involved in the biosecurity. And we had a great site visit yesterday with Mike at the airports and harbors that I think we're all really excited and ready to move forward together as a collective, which the council can be the forum for those discussions.
Mahalo nui, Chelsea. With that, I'm going to turn to Mark for our next question. Have you personally experienced losses or challenges due to invasive species, and how have you adapted to those challenges?
Yes, so just to go back a little bit in time when the H tree was constructed in Kaneohe. Kaneohe was the #1 banana producer in the state of Hawaii at that time in a very small area. And from the time I was a child, all the way up until an adult, it was bananas and just thriving bananas in that area. The bunchy top virus came in. I don't know if any of you remember that, but the bunchy top virus devastated bananas across the state and forced quarantines in the community. We were being advised to burn our areas of bananas, to poison them. Eventually, the land did recover as time went on. My kapuna always told me that nature has a way of healing itself through time. And there wasn't scientists the way we have now in place to help us at that time. We were just advised to do certain things and didn't understand the whole process of it. That led us to the growing of kalo. The areas that we farm now were all bananas, and then when the bananas faded out, we were able to plant the kalo in place of the bananas. So the challenges that we face now, it was interesting. There's some teachers that are here that we work with from the Kaneohe Elementary, and working with the schools in our area has really helped us out a lot. Obviously, bringing more hands to the land to care for the land and learn about it, engaging with the families of the students and creating opportunities for families to get involved and for communities to get involved more. But we've had great ideas come from, we had a rhino beetle battle. So we opened it up to the public for them to come to the farm, and we had prizes and had music and entertainment. And the goal was to catch as much rhino beetle as we could. We're organic farmers, so one of the keys to organic farming is organic matter. And we know that rhino beetles host themselves in organic matter. So we're no longer able to bring in mulch and the things that we used to do that take us away from other ways of farming that might not be so beneficial for the soil and for the plants. As we move into the future, listening to everybody share, collaboration and community is the key for us. We are on the ground as farmers. We will not be able to figure these things out on our own. So fortunately, we're partnering with the different agencies that have the knowledge and have the data and have the resources to help us out. And community is critical. As when we work with the DLNR and we work with these different agencies, they don't have enough manpower to execute these plans that we're bringing forward. It's really going to take the communities and concerned individuals within the community to make that difference. So I feel we're at that beginning stage of building the collaboration, making the connections to start addressing these issues one by one if we can. But it's going to be a journey for us to stabilize things.
Mahalo nui, Mark. And our last question for our panelists is for you, Ku'u. How does Matson collaborate with state agencies and agriculture stakeholders to improve biosecurity protocols?
So our process when we have a vessel coming in, we will actually turn our entire manifest over to the Department of Agriculture, and they will let us know which containers they want to inspect. Obviously usually mostly agricultural product, but sometimes if it is coming from a specific geographical area that's having an outbreak, they will tag those containers too uh, and do inspections on those. We also get to leverage some federal inspections. So I know you asked about the state, but we have a string that goes from Long Beach to through Honolulu to the Far East and then back to Long Beach. And because it's an international call, when it hits Long Beach, we get the federal ag and federal and customs to do an intensive inspection of the entire vessel before we can even unload a single container. So we get to leverage that for the Hawaii portion of it. And about 20 years ago, the industry worked with the Department of Ag and the state on supplying a line item in our invoicing. It's just a few dollars for every container, but that goes to fund the inspection. So we kind of took that off of their plate, so they wouldn't have to create like a sub department. So we that all runs through the private sector.
Mahalo nui, Ku'u. And I want to thank our panelists for your really thoughtful responses and the themes that were coming through there of collaboration, working with community, and really the importance of our interagency or our state agencies working together. At this time, because of all of our discussion, I'm sure our audience out there has got some questions for us. So audience, if you have questions, please raise your hand and then a microphone will come to you. And I think we're also going to invite Mike up here. Mike is going to come take this seat that I've been keeping warm for him. And then I'm going to come up here and help us keep an eye out on folks that have questions. I saw a hand up right around over here, and maybe somebody has a microphone.
Okay, so I really appreciate all the interagency cooperation that's going on with the different departments, Sharon, and that in solving all of these problems. But don't you think? And this question is for all of you. Is like this is really should be divided into two separate issues. One of how we deal with the invasives that we have in our community now versus keeping out future invasives going forward. Because those two issues are, the money involved in all of this is huge. $10 million doesn't even, it doesn't even scratch the surface of mitigating stuff coming into our communities. Okay, so I just want to know is there anything looking at plans of separating these two issues out and attacking, the invasives coming in, and maybe that can be more on a federal level and having federal support as opposed to dealing with invasives that we have here and now and mitigating, controlling them.
Mahalo for the question. I heard that was would love to hear from several of you on the panel and with you, Mike, also.
Okay, I'll
Want to
go.
jump in first?
I'm not sure who had the question, but it's a good question. And yes, there are dollars within the 10 million that was given to us. There was a line item for brown tree snake, 240,000, I believe it was. And what we're using that money for is to send every single inspector for training in Guam. They get the training, and they actually get the training on how to kill the snake. You know, not everybody wants to do that. So they're separated. Like who wants to kill the snake? You'd be surprised how many people do. So we do that. The brown tree snake is post-border. And we also still do the Christmas tree inspections. We do it on the other side of, on the West Coast. And for what it's worth, the number of interceptions that we have here have been increasing. And it's not an alarming amount, but it's more. So we have to step up that side. So brown tree snake, red imported fire ant, 27 states have it. California has it. It travels on produce. So we do that inspection, and we train our guys how to recognize the red imported fire ant, which is a menace. So I'll pass that on to
Somebody else want to jump in and answer that question or respond to the question?
Sure. And you're spot on. There's different tools and strategies we need to address prevention of emerging threats and what's on the horizon and what exists here today. And Mike and I have been talking. One of the biggest things are we need risk analysis and risk assessments for when it comes to prevention. We cannot have Hawaii Department of Agriculture looking at every single commodity, every single shipping container, everything coming into the state. So where is the highest risk? And that needs to be something that's ongoing, that we continually do, so we're always assessing risk and focusing our efforts in the most efficient and cost-effective way. And a pest that we can look at for, something that exists here with coconut rhinoceros beetle, coming back to that. It's a prevention matter for Maui, Hawaii Island right now, but Oahu and Kauai are in different places where the communities are being impacted. So we need to, it's called asset-based management. So we need to protect communities, natural resources, our agricultural commodities and products that are being impacted by coconut rhinoceros beetle. So it's just a different set of tools in the toolbox. And when something does become widespread, it is very costly to manage, and you're probably not going to eradicate it. And that's why we're looking into biological control.
shout out to Matson. The skunks and the opossums, we know they come in the summertime when it's dry and hot, so they take shelter in the container. Matson, shout out, man. They're always calling us, and we get them. I don't think we've missed one that we've seen. Thank you for that cargo fee. It's really helping us. It's an interagency effort, and what Chelsea said is, again, very, very true. We have to keep what's out, but we have to also prevent, be vigilant, and inspect. So, and there are federal dollars for this. They give us $245,000 a year for brown tree snake training. So, the feds are involved. They do help us. It takes all of us.
Just one of the answers from the commercial side is just an example. It didn't have to do with any government agencies. But we had a Christmas tree customer that lost a lot of containers one year because of slug infestation. They lost tens of thousands of dollars, not hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we worked with them and their supplier and found out if they just stored the Christmas trees vertically instead of stacking them horizontally before loading a container, you eliminated like 80% of the slug infestation. So there are commercial answers to this too.
Aloha, sir. Great question. Just a couple of things from my experience in New Zealand. We did split our structure to separate readiness from response, because what we found was, despite people's best efforts, you were always in the midst of a response. So if you separate it out under a separate aspect, it doesn't cost a lot of money, but there's only so much dollars, public purse or commercial. But what we know, every year our senior leadership team, every quarter, does an emerging risk dashboard. So I know immediately, and with the summer season and the changes, what the top 3 emerging risks are, and I can deploy my resources. So brown marmorated stink bug's a good example. And tullets went into South America. It was generally a summer period, so we change our resource to invest in surveillance activities during that time, and we increase inspections during that time. So what then happens is I then reduce some other inspections because I know that emerging risk is tailed off. But as we've heard as well, you need data, you need insights, you need to understand qualitative data to direct your resources to where they're required. And the emerging risk data is very, very important because, again, you can find that that's the most cost-effective way, whereas a response generally attracts the big dollars that then you have to then work out where you put that funding. So I think your question is a great example. I've already heard in my time here of some of the emerging risks that Hawaii's facing. I think you've got to, my view is continue going down that route and balancing that together, and just listening to Mark and know those farmers that are actually out there doing it, understanding the changes to land, changing the temperature. But you've also got to ensure, just finally, you don't always get it right. My emerging risk dashboard showed me that fall armyworm would arrive in 2032 because of the climate. It arrived last year, flew across from Australia. I don't like Australia, that's a joke, by the way. Damn Australians. So the final part of that is, depending on the nature of the risk, sometimes you need to make a decision. Can you eradicate, or do you need to have a pest management plan in place and supporting the community to manage the pest? Because sometimes you can't eradicate everything. Kia ora.
We got a lot of good discussion there with that one question. I think we have another question back here
Right here.
somewhere. Right there. Thank you.
Hi. Yeah. First, thank you so much for the presentation and the panel discussion. It's been fantastic. I think my question's mostly for Chelsea, but maybe also Sharon. I appreciated in Mike's presentation some of the reference to the opportunities in technology. And I'm also aware of some of how drone-based technology has been used for management of pests. Could you speak to, what you see as maybe the opportunities for us for technology in Hawaii in this space?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's an exciting realm to explore. And we have amazing researchers, especially out of the University of Hawaii, that are kind of exploring and repurposing some of the systems for invasive species surveillance. That's been used for a number of years now with a researcher out of the University of Hawaii at Hilo to do spatial imagery for rapid ohia death, which has been really critical with mapping the damage, but also pinpointing certain aspects of, hey, fenced areas actually have less rapid ohia death than unfenced areas because the trees aren't damaged, and the fungal pathogen is a wound-based pathogen that will enter the tree through those. And so you have feral ungulates roaming around these areas, pigs and cattle causing wounds on the tree, and that ultimately is leading to higher rates of rapid ohia death mortality in these areas that are unfenced, basically unmanaged. There's also a lot of exciting research into treatment applications, aerial treatment applications. So one of the largest infestations of little fire ant in the state was over in Nihiku on Maui. It was over 170 acres. It stretched Mauka to Makai all the way down to the ocean in a really steep, highly vegetated gulch that also had residential private property. Very challenging to do the application of the treatment that was necessary. And the Maui Invasive Species Committee, along with the Hawaii Ant Lab, developed an aerial treatment for the bait that was deployed by a helicopter. And to date, they have no little fire ants there. I mean, this was a huge infestation. And the great thing about that is the County of Maui invests significant dollars in invasive species management to the Maui Invasive Species Committee and also the Watershed Partnership. So with that investment, we can really make a lot of difference. And there's also drone work being tested out currently for application of citric acid for koki frog management, especially in the Waimanalo area. That is very challenging. We're using camera traps for coconut rhinoceros beetle. So with investment in research, we can have more effective, more efficient tools, and that's definitely something I would like, through the council to have more investment in research so we can have these tools.
Yeah, what she said. But also the coconut rhinoceros beetle we're using those boom trucks, the boom lifts, and then you can use the drones to apply. And it's so specific that you need a specific type of drone to apply a specific type of pesticide. And so the technology is helping us. But I'm going to switch gears. The technology that we're using to help us with the axis deer, federal dollars are based on certain measurements, certain data collection. The data is important. And we're setting up video cameras that can actually count the number of deer, AI technology. They can count the deer that they see within a certain amount of time. And then you can gauge the extent of your problem. And we don't have it in Honolulu, knock on wood, but axis deer, they are very, very invasive. And any kind of technology that we can use to help us will help us get the federal dollars and eradication and maybe even lift the quarantine on Molokai for bovine TB. So the drone technology, remember the old days they had those noisy planes that would apply pesticides, right? We're still doing that, but on a much more pointed, targeted way because of the drone technology that we can say, go there, and then we apply the pest there. So we're using everything we got. We want to set up something like ring cameras around the ports so that it's activated by light, movement, and then we can capture, maybe that's something we need to go out there and get, you know? So we're using as much technology as we can. What's helping us is satellite phones, just really rugged phones you can drop in the water and, you know, so the technology is joining the fight.
Mahalo a nui loa. It looks like we are out of time, and our time is up. So I want to send a heartfelt mahalo a nui loa to our esteemed panelists and to Regional Commissioner Mike Inglis for joining us and for generously sharing insights. We're all going to be around throughout the evening, so if you have some follow-up questions or conversation, please find us and have some discussion. We really look forward to continuing this really important conversation. And with that, I think I'm going to invite Denisa.
Thank you. Thanks, Ulalia. Thank you so much. Again, I want to thank our panelists, and I want to thank our keynote speaker, Mike Inglis. But I also want to thank all of you. You guys did a great job. Give yourselves a hand. I didn't ever think I could serve alcohol and have a quiet room, but you guys were excellent. So thank you very much for paying attention tonight. As we move into the eating and drinking portion of the evening, I'd like to let you know there's an this is also an educational experience. Hold on. Let me see. I'm supposed to change the slide. No, I'm not supposed to change the slide yet. Our chefs have created edible invasives like Samoan crab, ta'ape, tilapia, and venison. And I'd like to recognize our incredible chefs who created tonight's invasive-inspired dishes. Chef Jeremy Shigekane, up there in the left-hand corner. We have Kealoha Domingo. Kealoha, are you here? In the middle. We have Chef Ed Kenny from Mud and Water. And we have Chef John Matsubara are you there? From Feast. So I'm going to change the slide now. First time we have this. No, did it go? No? Okay, I don't know how to click this down. Wait, maybe if I do this. There. Okay, perfect. So our next Eat, Think, Drink will be on food safety. Food safety unwrapped, know what's on your plate. And it'll be held on June 24th, again here at the Prince Waikiki, featuring keynote speaker Robin Forgy of Costco. She's flying here from Washington State, and I'm told she's the top food safety expert at Costco. So tickets go on sale in a couple of weeks. Again, I want to thank our presenting sponsor, Central Pacific Bank, and all of tonight's supporting sponsors. And a very special mahalo to Ira Shimabukuro of Calais Eggs, who has provided each of you with a dozen eggs. So you got a ticket at the beginning. So thank you, Iris. Thank you. If you present that card that you got this evening at their Waikimilo location between April 4th and April 19th, you can get your eggs. And that's precious right now because we don't have too many eggs. Does this go? What happened here? Okay, and finally, you can watch all of our 27 27 previous Eat, Think, Drink episodes online now. Just go to our website and click on past episodes. So I have just a few more remarks. Tonight, we're also offering Keiki in the Kitchen with Mika the sous chef. I don't know if you met my dog. She's Mika. And Mike, while he had that cute little puppy up there, it was the beagle. He also has a Lhasa Apso, just like me. So anyway, the books are $10 at 50% off. It's a perfect Easter basket addition or a gift for your little chef in your life. And don't forget to check out our Young Entrepreneurs program table in the lobby. It features student-made products from over 20 schools, actually middle and high schools, using local ingredients. These items are available online at halfyepmarketplace.com through April 2nd, and you can also shop in person at our YEP Marketplace at the KCC Farmers Market on April 12th. We are also excited to extend tonight's conversation with a special Eat, Think, Drink tour at Luluku Farms on Saturday, April 19th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., led by our panelist, Mark. He is making his farm available to us. So if you would like more information on that, we'll be getting that out in the next couple of days. And I want to thank the Ulupono Initiative. Keith, thank you very much for sponsoring that experience. This evening was designed as a conversation and thoughtful discussion. We encourage all of you to engage with our speakers and with each other throughout the evening. The Hawaii Agricultural Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and your support through a monetary donation on our website is always appreciated if you can. As we wrap up, please exit. Actually, we don't have to exit to the right because they took up all the barriers. You can just go in the back there. And we're going to open our reception actually now. So on behalf of the Hawaii Agricultural Foundation, mahalo for being here, and please enjoy the rest of your evening and get home safe. Thank you very much.